The internet is full of disturbing images, cursed photos, creepy figures, unexplained pictures that feel almost wrong. But here's the thing, every image has a source, a photographer, a location, a moment in time. So where did these terrifying photos actually come from? In this video, we're uncovering the real origins behind some of the most unsettling images ever shared online. On July 10th, 2020, a Reddit user known as Grizzly Panda 5 posted an image that instantly sent people into a spiral. Within hours, users were flooding the comments, trying to figure out where the unsettling photo had come from. The picture shows two children leaning out of a window. The girl wears a soft, innocent smile, but the boy beside her is different. He stares directly into the camera with a blank, almost lifeless expression. And then, you notice it. Standing behind them is the dark silhouette of a woman. Her body is almost completely swallowed in shadow, except for her eyes. For some reason, her eyes are clearly visible, glowing against the darkness, while the rest of her remains pitch black. What makes the image even more disturbing is the lighting. It doesn't make sense. If she's standing that close to the window, the light should reveal her features. Instead, all we see is a shadow and those eyes. As I started digging into the origin of the photo, one title kept appearing over and over again on different forums: Tales of Terror from Tokyo. This was a Japanese horror anthology series that aired between 2003 and 2005. Many users were convinced the image came directly from one of its episodes, but that's not entirely accurate. While there is a connection to the series, the image itself didn't originate from an actual episode. It actually comes from a Japanese short film titled Only the Two of Us, which was released in 2005 as a spin-off related to Tales of Terror from Tokyo. The short film follows a high school tutor and her student as they become entangled in a series of strange and unsettling paranormal events. In the original scene, a girl walks past an apartment building and waves up at two children leaning out of a window. Later in the scene, a shadowy figure appears behind them. However, and this is important, in the original footage, the shadow did not have glowing eyes. That detail was almost certainly edited in before the image was uploaded to Reddit, likely to make it more disturbing and mysterious. Because of its eerie atmosphere, unclear origins, and the way it spread across the internet, this image has since become known as one of the most infamous, cursed images of the last decade. I don't even need to explain this next one. If you were around during the golden era of creepypastas, you've definitely seen this image before. It's that black and white hospital photo, the one that immediately feels wrong the second you look at it. And right in the center of the frame stands what appears to be a woman. At least, that's what it looks like at first. The longer you stare, the more unsettling it becomes. Her face is unnaturally pale, completely still, no emotion, no warmth. Her eyes are stretched wide open, almost too wide. And that smile, it doesn't look natural. It looks forced, like it's been frozen in place for years. The image spread everywhere online under the name The Expressionless, and it genuinely disturbed a lot of people, myself included. And the story behind it? That's where things get even stranger. In June 1972, a woman appeared in Cedars-Sinai Hospital in nothing but a white, blood-covered gown. Now this, in itself, should not be too surprising, as people often have accidents nearby and come to the nearest hospital for medical attention. But there were two things that caused people who saw her to vomit and flee in terror. The first being that she wasn't exactly human. She resembled something close to a mannequin, but had the dexterity and fluidity of a normal human being. Her face was as flawless as a mannequin's, devoid of eyebrows and smeared in makeup. There was a kitten clamped in her jaws so unnaturally tight that no teeth could be seen, and the blood was still squirting out over her gown and onto the floor. She then pulled it out of her mouth, tossed it aside, and collapsed. From the moment she stepped through the entrance to when she was taken to a hospital room and cleaned up before being prepped for sedation, she was completely calm, expressionless, and motionless. The doctors thought it best to restrain her until the authorities could arrive, and she did not protest. They were unable to get any kind of response from her, and most staff members felt too uncomfortable to look directly at her for more than a few seconds. But the second the staff tried to sedate her, she fought back with extreme force. 2 members of staff had to hold her down as her body rose up on the bed with that same blank expression. She turned her emotionless eyes toward the male doctor and did something unusual. She smiled. As she did, the female doctor screamed and let go out of shock. In the woman's mouth were not human teeth, but long, sharp spikes, too long for her mouth to close fully without causing any damage. The male doctor stared back at her for a moment before asking, "What in the hell are you?" She cracked her neck down to her shoulder to observe him, still smiling. There was a long pause. The security had been alerted and could be heard coming down the hallway. As he heard them approach, she darted forward, sinking her teeth into the front of his throat, ripping out his jugular and letting him fall to the floor, gasping for air as he choked on his own blood. She stood up and leaned over him, her face coming dangerously close to his as the life faded from his eyes. She leaned closer and whispered in his ear, God. The doctor's eyes filled with fear as he watched her calmly walk away to greet the security men. His last ever sight would be watching her feast on them one by one. The female doctor who survived the incident named her the Expressionless. There was never a sighting of her again. That's the story. And when I first read it as a kid, alongside the photo, it genuinely messed me up. I remember closing my laptop immediately and sleeping with the lights on that night. It stuck with me. What really makes this image disturbing isn't anything loud or shocking. It's the subtlety. It doesn't scream at you. It just sits there, quietly wrong. There's something deeply unsettling about it in that uncanny valley kind of way. The woman's face doesn't look natural. It almost resembles a wax figure. Too smooth, too still. And that smile, it's not aggressive or exaggerated. It's subtle, but it feels fake, like something trying to imitate a human expression and not quite getting it right. Then you notice the 2 nurses standing behind her. They look like they're casually interacting with her, as if she's just another patient. And that's the part that really makes you question what you're looking at. Once you know the full story, even if it's fictional, it somehow makes the image even more disturbing, especially if you're 12 years old and deep into creepypasta forums. But here's the truth. It's all fake. The image wasn't taken during some mysterious hospital incident. It's not from 1972, and it's not even a real woman. The photograph was actually taken in 1968 by a British photographer named Lord Snowdon, whose real name was Anthony Armstrong Jones. He was a well-known photographer at the time, and the image was captured for a book titled Assignments. And what you're looking at in that photo? Not a monster, not a serial killer. It's a training dummy, a wax model used by nursing students to practice medical procedures. In fact, the original photo is literally titled, "Student Nurses with Waxwork Patient." That's it. Just a normal image taken during a medical training session. Somehow, though, that ordinary photograph ended up transforming into one of the most infamous and disturbing creepypasta images on the internet. From what I found while researching, the image was first repurposed around 2012 on a conspiracy and mystery blog called disclose.tv. After that, it started circulating through creepypasta forums, and eventually, it became known as the Expressionless. This is the perfect example of how powerful context can be. Without the story, it's just an old, slightly strange photograph, but pair it with the right backstory, even one that's dramatic and completely fabricated, and suddenly, it feels disturbing. Even now, knowing it's just a training dummy doesn't completely erase that uncanny feeling. There's still something off about it. It doesn't hit the same way it did when I was 11 or 12, but it still carries that weird, unsettling horror vibe. The most common story behind this image is simple, but incredibly effective. Supposedly, it was taken by a family known as the Coopers sometime in the 1950s. According to the legend, they had just moved into a new house in Texas. On their very first night there, they snapped a photo of the family sitting around the dinner table, celebrating the move. Nothing unusual, at least not at first. But when the photo was developed, something was there that definitely wasn't supposed to be. Hanging upside down from the ceiling was what looked like a body, just suspended there, directly above the family. Naturally, the internet ran with it. People claimed it was the ghost of a former resident. Others said it was something darker, something demonic. The image started circulating through forums, paranormal blogs, and creepy image compilations, and no matter how many times I saw it, it never felt normal. There's something about the way the figure just hangs there, perfectly centered, almost deliberately framed, that makes it feel like it's watching, like it was meant to be seen. Out of all the images I've talked about so far, this one might be the most quietly effective. It doesn't rely on shock value. It's just an ordinary old family photo with one very wrong detail, and that's what makes it so unsettling. It feels authentic. The lighting makes sense. The family's expressions look natural, and the black and white film gives it that aged, haunted quality that automatically makes everything feel more believable. It's the kind of image you could easily accept as real, especially if you didn't examine it too closely. For years, the mystery just floated around online. Some people speculated it was a double exposure. Others thought it was an elaborate fake. But recently, we finally got a clear explanation, straight from the source. Eventually, the mystery was cleared up by the photographer himself, Richard Ramsdell. And the truth, it's honestly more impressive than the ghost story. The image wasn't taken in the 1950s. It was created in 1981. Ramsdell was known for producing surreal, unsettling photo manipulations, and he was doing it decades before Photoshop even existed. To create the effect, he photographed himself dressed in white, posing in an unnatural, almost lifeless position. Then he projected that image upside down onto a wall. After that, he carefully staged and photographed the final scene with the projection visible in frame. No digital editing, no CGI, no AI, just a camera, a projector, and a lot of creative precision. And here's the crazy part. It was never meant to be a hoax. It was simply one piece in a larger collection of surreal art photography. But once the image started circulating online without context, people filled in the blanks themselves. Over time, it evolved into one of the internet's most iconic ghost photos. Honestly, knowing it was done entirely with practical effects almost makes it better. Not because it's paranormal, but because it's real craftsmanship. A fully analog illusion that managed to fool the internet for years. And when the explanation finally came straight from the artist, it didn't ruin the image for me. If anything, it made me respect it more. Even now, knowing exactly how it was done, it still gives me chills. A massive figure, perfectly proportioned, but instead of a face, it has this disturbing, childlike drawing stretched across where its features should be. And the way it moves makes it even worse. It doesn't walk. It rolls forward on wheels attached beneath a platform at its base. If you've been online long enough, you've probably seen the video, or at least the image. The creature, often called the rolling giant, appears in a video set inside an abandoned mall. There's no one else around, just empty corridors, flickering lights, and that overwhelming silence. Many viewers believe the setting is part of the Backrooms mythos, but none of that is officially confirmed. In the video, the protagonist explores the deserted mall while recording everything. That's when the giant appears. Here's what makes it terrifying. It only moves when he's not looking at it. Every time he turns away or lowers the camera, it gets closer. Slowly, quietly, patiently. Eventually, he realizes he's being followed, and he runs. But as he tries to escape, the mall itself seems to distort and twist around him. The space becomes unfamiliar, almost alive. Then the inevitable happens. He's caught. The camera crashes to the ground. The screen goes dark. All we hear are his screams, fading into silence. So where did this video actually come from? Was it real Backrooms footage? Obviously not. The Rolling Giant is actually part of a series created by Kane Pixels, the same creator behind one of the most viral Backrooms series on YouTube. The giant wasn't discovered footage. It was designed specifically for the story. According to Kane Pixels, the Rolling Giant is meant to be an exaggerated version of those inflatable mascots you see in shopping malls. The oversized, smiling promotional characters meant to feel friendly and inviting. But when you strip away their branding, their meaning, their forced cheerfulness, they become unsettling, hollow, grotesque. That's the idea behind the Rolling Giant. It isn't some cursed artifact or hidden urban legend. It's art. A deliberately designed mascot created to feel wrong, familiar, yet deeply disturbing. And honestly, that might make it even creepier. Teletubbies premiered in 1997 and was created for toddlers ages 1 to 4 by Anne Wood and Andrew Davenport for the BBC. The show follows 4 colorful characters living in a bright, surreal world. Its slow pacing, repetition, and simple speech were intentionally designed to support early childhood learning. Even though many adults found it strange, it became a global hit because it was carefully made for very young children. Despite Teletubbies becoming a global hit for young children, there's one image connected to the show that feels completely different. The photo shows a young boy sitting in what appears to be a hospital room. Around him stand the 4 Teletubbies. But something isn't right. These aren't the bright, friendly characters we're used to seeing on TV. Their eyes are completely black, empty, lifeless, and honestly unsettling. All 4 of them are staring directly at the camera. It feels staged, but intentionally disturbing. So what exactly is this image? Looking closer, there's a poster of Dutch football star Dennis Bergkamp visible on the wall behind them. Because of that detail, it's very likely the photo was taken in the Netherlands. Another strange detail, the image itself appears to be a photo of a photo, almost like someone captured it from a board or display. And the costumes? They don't look accidental. The dark eyes seem deliberate. It feels like they were modified to look creepy on purpose. The earliest trace of this image online appeared in a post on Reddit, specifically in the r/creepy community. The caption read something like, "As if being sick as a kid wasn't scary enough." The user claimed they saw it hanging in the children's ward of an English hospital, under a section labeled, "Celebrities Who Visited Us." According to the uploader, the photo was taken in a hospital waiting area. Years later, when asked about it, he said he didn't have any more details. Because of patient confidentiality rules, there wasn't much information he could access or share. So what's the likely explanation? Most likely the Teletubbies performers were visiting a hospitalized child to cheer him up, something children's entertainers often do. The dark eyes may have just been part of older costume designs, poor lighting, or camera distortion. But even if the intention was wholesome, the result feels anything but comforting. Because let's be honest, if you were a sick child in a hospital room and those 4 figures walked in staring like that, would you feel better? Or terrified? Back in August of 2015, a Reddit user who claimed to work in search and rescue posted something that would later become one of the internet's strangest legends. In the post, the writer described a bizarre and unsettling phenomenon. According to them, while working deep in the wilderness, sometimes 30 or 40 miles from the nearest road, search and rescue teams would occasionally come across something that made no sense at all. Staircases. Not ruins of houses, not cabins, just staircases. They described them as looking exactly like the stairs from a normal home, as if someone had cut them out of a house and carefully placed them in the middle of the forest. The author claimed this wasn't a one-time discovery. They said it happened often enough that it had become an unspoken thing within their unit. Supposedly, superiors had told them not to talk about it. And over time, the team had grown so used to seeing these random staircases that it barely felt strange anymore. After the story was posted, it spread quickly. Other Reddit users began chiming in, claiming they had heard similar stories or experienced something just as strange. As more comments appeared, the mystery grew, and so did the legend. Blogs picked it up, YouTube channels covered it, online forums debated it. So the big question became, were these mysterious staircases real? Or was this simply one of the internet's most convincing works of fiction? This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every SAR unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other SAR officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking 30 or 40 miles, at some point we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them, because it happens so frequently. What makes this even more interesting is that the idea didn't just suddenly appear out of nowhere as a creepy internet story. In fact, a local news station, WLOS News 13, had looked into something very similar months before the Reddit post ever gained attention. But when you dig into the actual origin of the photo that's often shared alongside the story, the mystery starts to fade. It turns out the staircase wasn't some unexplained phenomenon deep in the wilderness. It was actually part of a large-scale art installation created in 1988 by an artist named Bruce Allen. The structure was intentionally built as a creative project, not discovered by search and rescue teams, not abandoned by some vanished house, but deliberately placed there as artwork. Allen himself explained that it was meant to be an installation piece, constructed with purpose and design in mind. So while the internet turned it into something eerie and unexplained, the real story behind that particular staircase is far more grounded in creativity than the supernatural. I was overwhelmed by the scale, energy, and presence of the trees, and spent several days tramping through Beechenhurst on and off the paths, looking at what was there, getting a feeling of the place, and wondering how my own ideas might fit in. I took along with me the knowledge that globally, forests and jungles are being stripped, exploited for timber, and cleared for farming. However, despite the historical exploitation that has happened in the Dean, mining of iron ore and coal, felling trees for timber, shipbuilding, and charcoal, there exists in the forest an intimacy peculiar to no other place that I know. Bruce Allen, drawing inspiration from some of the earliest astronomical structures in India, Bruce Allen designed the piece as a kind of modern observatory. The concept was simple but striking, a staircase that rises up and ultimately leads nowhere. He painted it black so it would contrast sharply with the brightness and color of the surrounding forest. The structure stood near a protected pond, surrounded by dense woodland and thick tree cover. Visitors could climb to the top platform to take in the view of the forest from a slightly elevated perspective. There was even a small sheltered space beneath the stairs, almost like a quiet nook carved into the design. At its core, the sculpture was never meant to be mysterious or unsettling. It was simply an art installation, a reflective piece meant to interact with its environment. But over time, images of it were circulated online and repurposed as evidence for the now famous creepypasta story about staircases appearing deep in the wilderness. Today, the original installation no longer exists. It has been removed, and there are no physical remains left behind, only photographs and the internet legend that gave it a second life.